Hey everyone, ever get that feeling, that you're not quite sure what your local government is up to? Well, in Florida, you actually have a constitutional right to find out. Today, we're diving into what are called the Sunshine Laws. And let me tell you, they are some seriously powerful tools that basically give every single citizen a front row seat to how their democracy works.
I mean, it's a pretty basic question, right? How do you actually know what your elected officials are doing? The people making decisions that affect your daily life. How can you be sure the whole process is fair and open? Well, that's the exact problem Florida's Sunshine Laws were created to solve. They're all about making sure government doesn't happen in the shadows.
And look, this isn't just some nice-to-have policy or a gentle suggestion. Nope, it's a right that is literally baked right into the state's constitution. The language is just so clear and powerful. It says, every person has the right to see or get a copy of public records, and that all meetings have to be open. That's a huge deal. It makes government transparency a fundamental right, and it all works through two main pillars.
All right, let's jump into that first pillar, open meetings. This is pretty much what it sounds like. It's all about what happens when public officials, think your city council, your county commission, your school board, get together to discuss public business. The whole point of the law is to make sure those crucial conversations don't happen behind closed doors.
Okay, and here's where the real power of this law kicks in. It's in the super broad definition of what a meeting actually is. We're not just talking about the official scheduled session with a gavel and a formal agenda. The law defines a meeting as any discussion between two or more members of the same board about something they might, eventually vote on. That means it covers everything from the final vote to informal workshops and even some casual chats. So let's look at what that really means in practice. Check this out. If two county commissioners go grab lunch, they can't just start hashing out a zoning problem they're going to vote on later. The law calls that a meeting. And here's a sneaky one. A city attorney can't just call each council member, one after the other, to build a secret agreement about firing someone. That's a big no-no. The law sees right through that and calls it a meeting. But it is also reasonable. One commissioner can totally talk to a member of a completely different advisory board, or two commissioners can attend the same public training course, as long as they're not off in a corner talking shop about their own board's business.
And believe me, this isn't just theoretical. This law has real teeth. There was this actual court case where a school superintendent tried to get around the law. He met with school board members one by one to talk about a controversial subject. He argued, hey, these were all separate conversations. But the court saw right through it. They called it an illegal secret meeting because he was acting as a go-between. It just proves that the law cares about the effect of what you're doing, not just the technical format you try to use.
Okay, so that's open meetings. Now let's move to the second pillar, which is just as important and builds right on top of the first. It's not just about what officials say, but also what they write, what they type, and what they create. Let's enter the world of public records.
And you probably guessed it, just like with meetings, the definition of a public record is absolutely massive. It was written to be future-proof. These are the key phrases, regardless of the physical form or means of transmission. Think about that for a second. That means it doesn't matter if it's on a piece of paper, on a computer, or on some kind of device that hasn't even been invented yet. If it's made or received as part of official business, boom! It's a public record.
This has huge implications, especially now. An email between city staff? That's a public record. But get this, a text message about a zoning variance sent from a commissioner's personal cell phone? Yep, that's a public record too. Even the posts and comments on an official government Facebook page can be public records that have to be saved. The key thing to remember isn't the device. It's whether the conversation is about public business. So how do you actually get your hands on these records? Well, the law makes it incredibly simple. You don't need a lawyer, you don't have to write a formal letter, a simple phone call or email is enough. And get this, you do not have to give your name or explain why you want the information. The government agency just has to respond quickly and can only charge you for the actual cost of making the copy. It's one of the most citizen-friendly access laws in the entire country.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, is everything public? Are there any exceptions at all? And the answer is yes, there are. But, and this is a really big but, The Constitution is super strict about it. Any exception has to be created by the legislature, it has to be really specific, and it can't be any broader than absolutely necessary.
Now, there are hundreds of specific exemptions, but don't worry, you don't need to memorize them. Most of them fall into just a few logical buckets. The biggest category is protecting personal privacy. You know, things like social security numbers or medical records. That makes sense. Others are for public safety, like keeping an undercover officer's identity secret. They also let the government figure out its legal strategy in private or protect a company's trade secret.
And if you want a perfect example of just how specific these exemptions have to be, just look at the lottery. The law doesn't just say, lottery winners are secret. No way! It says that for a prize over $250,000, the winner's name is confidential for exactly 90 days. That gives them a little time to get their affairs in order. But after that, the sun shines on that record too. It's a fantastic example of how the default setting is always openness.
So what happens if an agency just denies your request? What if they won't let you into a meeting or give you a record? Well, the law doesn't just give you a right on paper, it gives you some really powerful tools to actually fight back.
So this lays out your options. If you get denied, you can take the agency to court. And here's the best part. The burden of proof is on them. The agency has to prove why the record should be kept secret. You don't have to prove why it should be open. Now, if the court agrees the agency broke the law, it can hit them with fines. But more importantly, and this is the real game changer, the court must order the agency to pay your reasonable attorney's fees. This levels the playing field between a regular citizen and a government agency with way more resources. And if you're not ready to jump straight into a lawsuit, there's also a mediation program you can try first.
So when you boil it all down, Florida's Sunshine Law is way more than just a statute. It's a constitutional mandate. It gives you both the right and the remedy. It puts the power of government oversight directly into the hands of the public. The law guarantees that you have the right to pull back that curtain. The only question left is, will you?